Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about my final project, which is the SIT web app. It is basically a sentiment analysis tool. The problem right now is that running sentiment analysis on social media data is incredibly powerful, but if you want to run it well, you have to parse large data sets and use complex machine learning and data science techniques. And these are skills which non-technical users don't possess, which means that they cannot run sentiment analysis. And SIT attempts to solve this problem. It aims to provide users with non-technical sentiment analysis tools without compromising much on its ability to produce insights. Here's a flowchart on how it works. SIT is designed as a pipeline. So users will go through several steps to generate a final report. On the left side, you have what users enter, and on the right side, you have technologies which are integrated into SIT. The first one is how you extract data. Users just need to include keywords, and using Twitter's API, we can generate a data set of tweets. And the second one is to filter out irrelevant data. So users just need to include keywords to help identify these tweets, and using Snorkel, we can we can create a data set that only includes relevant data. The third one is to help categorize the data set into different subtopics. Once again, the user just needs to include keywords to help identify each topic. And using Snorkel or NLP technology, you, SIT will help categorize the data set. And the fourth one will just be running the sentiment analysis and generating a final report so that users can analyze their data. So let's move on to a demonstration of SIT. So after you register and log in, this is the homepage or the dashboard that you'll first see. Initially, when you create your first report, it's recommended that you go to the help center because this gives a complete guide on creating your first pipeline. So let's create a pipeline now. Imagine I want to create a report to run sentiment analysis on iPhones. So I want to find out what Twitter users think about iPhones. So I'm going to start a report, and we're going to be brought to the first step, which is extracting Twitter data. You get to choose a type, and you can choose a prefix. In this case, I'm going to choose none, and our query in this case would obviously be iPhone. So for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to extract about 1,000 tweets. After SIT is done extracting data, it will go to result page where we can look at several tweets and they'll be shown on the page. And you have the ability to export some of the tweets or all of them. It's recommended that you export at least some of them because you have a clearer idea of what are some words that Twitter users generally use when they talk about iPhones. If you're satisfied with it, then you go on to the next step. In step two, is about filtering the data. So you can include several. So you can have several group names, and each group name will be associated with some keywords. In this case, we don't want anything that also touches on competitors. So, for example, if a tweet includes iPhones and Samsung, we don't know whether the positive or negative sentiment talks about iPhone or the Samsung. So in order to not confuse these things, we'll just exclude mentions of competitors. We just have one group name for now. After this, you'll be brought to a step two results page. And that will show you some basic stats on how much has been filtered out. So in this case, 56 tweets have been filtered out. And if you're fine with it, then just go on to the next step. The next step is about categorization, and this is the most complex step because you get to choose between two methods. The absolute method, you use the absolute method when you have several concise keywords. So this would be a perfect example of when you want to use an absolute method. You use the NLP method when, firstly, you cannot concisely represent a topic into several keywords. So in this case, your keywords over here would be several sentences or a paragraph. And the second condition is that you know that your given categories represents nearly the entire dataset, because unlike absolute method, NLP method will make sure every single tweet is categorized into one category. So right now we'll use absolute method because it's the simplest. We'll categorize into iOS, TikTok, and purchase. So give me a while to input some keywords. There's some sample categories based on what is trending right now. It's generally a good idea to be as comprehensive as possible, especially when using the absolute method, because what it does is it just matches the keywords to your Twitter dataset. So you want to have as many variations as possible of the same meaning. So after this is done loading, you get to, yeah, it will generate some statistics. This is quite similar to step two. So if this all looks fine to you and you get some sample tweets, if it all looks fine, go to the next step, which is the easiest step because you just have to choose between two options. If you can't decide because you don't know the benefits of each of them, just choose both. After this is done, you get a preliminary report, but we won't go through it now and we'll just finish it because we'll get to see a more comprehensive one later on. So go to my reports and then view the report that you just created. Over here, you'll see several lines of information about the analysis that you've just done. But the important part here is the visualization. So just click on the categories that you want to display. And in this case, I'm just gonna click on aggregate so that our data will be simpler. The reason why we don't have a historical analysis feature is that the free version of Twitter API only allows for up to 7 days of data, and that's not enough to generate statistics on trend. It won't be very useful. So what will be created will be pie charts that describe the different categories. So for a non-technical users, this will be the most significant part because this is where you conduct your analysis. And that is what the state web app is all about. So some limitations are that firstly, pre-trained app models are limited because even though users will have a very easy time using it, it doesn't account for the most recent usage of slangs or keywords that only pertain to a particular topic. And as mentioned earlier, Twitter API has this limitation. The last one has more to do with how the app is designed. Because it uses the free version of Heroku's database, it's inherently pretty slow, and there isn't a caching feature inside this web app. And as you can see from just now, it results in slower loading times. And that's it from me. Thank you for listening.